Hello, buddy. All right. Well, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Monday. Um, Today is, of course, Monday, Monday, January the 5th, 2025. I hope everybody's had a good weekend. I hope you guys had a chance to check out last night's show when we introduced everybody to Holyoke's version of Catman. Of course, as always, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. And also, if anything here grabs your anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we'll try to answer the questions to the best of our. And I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. And we got, of course, our first comment of the evening, Rex from Double Flyer. He popped in to say, "Hail, Mike," and dropped a like and share. Appreciate that. So as I said, we're just waiting, going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Uh, Hopefully, everybody's, again, on both my YouTube and my um, Rumble channels. If you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. It'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. Well, like today, I would watch some more classic cartoons earlier this afternoon. It's about five of them from April 1940. Let's see. Among those included the debut, the premiere of the character Screwy Squirrel, Tex Avery's creation for MGM, started up in 1944. Basically he had created both Screwy Squirrel and Droopy Dog, but Droopy ended up being the more popular of the two characters, as Screwy Squirrel only lasted for about 5 cartoons, from what I was reading earlier. Um, and I know the his debut cartoon has gotten played a few times on MeTV Tunes and some other stuff as well. Um, Initially, starting off as they were trying to make it seem like they were going to have this cute little Sammy squirrel going, and Screwy Squirrel comes in and basically takes over the cartoon with more slapstick comedy and all that, going from the whole cutesy angle to the whole slapstick comedy angle. So anyways, let's see. Also saw, of course, Walter Lance's version, animated adaptation of The Barber of Seville. There are a couple of animated adaptations of the Barber of Seville opera. Uh, Walter Lance did one version, I think, later on, and Warner Brothers did another version with Bugs Bunny in the role of the Barber of Seville. So, all right, so now we're at 3:48 here, 3:49. So coming up on 4 minutes. So, all right, so let me talk about what's on tap for tonight. So, I've got a couple articles to go over from Bounding into Comics, both comic related. Let's see, one of them is talking about Ultimate Endgame aims to feel organic with what came before. Main priority is doing, quote, what's most true to these characters and the story. Wondering what that's going to mean, but I guess we'll find out soon enough when we get into the article. Also, apparently DC dominated the 2025 comic book sales. Marvel makes only leaderboard appearance thanks to Deadpool Batman. So Marvel doing worse than um than DC in that regard. Anyways, do need to go. I do need to go off camera here for a moment. I'm going to put some music on while I'm gone, and then also tonight we'll of course get caught up on all the latest from over the weekend. Get caught up on Friday Night SmackDown, Saturday's Collision. Look at Wrestle Kingdom, see what all went down there, and then how all that kind of went. And then and then of course finish things off with this day in each history. But before I do get into all that, I do, as I said, need to go off camera here, so I'm going to put some music on. See you guys while I'm done, and when I come back, we'll get right into the material. All right, I'm back, and with me being back now, let's go ahead and get into the material at hand. All right, so here we go. Let's go with this first article, of course. All right, so here we go. Ultimate Endgame, in smaller quotes, Ultimate Endgame aims to, quote, feel organic with what came before, unquote. Main priority is doing, quote, what's most true to these characters and the story, unquote. Article by Spencer McCooley, published back on January 2nd, which of course was this past Friday. So let's see what Spencer has to say here in the article here. In fully recognizing the hesitation many fans may feel towards his being entrusted to give a proper and satisfactory ending to Earth 6160's meticulously crafted canon, Ultimate Endgame writer Dennis Camp has made it a point to assure those concerned that above all else, his main goal with the climactic miniseries was to specifically honor and respect the stories that made the revitalized line a massive success. A main architect of the new Ultimate Universe via his work on its core Ultimates Volume 3 book, Camp spoke to his creative approach to the Maker's return during a recent Endgame-centric interview given to AIPT Comics' Chris Copeland. Admitting to feeling a bit intimidated by the massive scope of the assignment, the Marvel writer explained, quote, felt very confident about my ability to tell the stories for my characters, but I was a little worried about the others, unquote. Quote, I hope I've done my job, unquote. He added, quote, I know how too much anyway, so it's fun, unquote. All right. All right. So to this end, Camp further confessed, quote, I feel a sense of responsibility to the characters and to the story that we've been telling. To end this in a way that is satisfying, true, and respectful, and that reflects how it makes them feel things and reflects the world as I see it or I experience it, unquote. Quote, and so trying to do all of that, all the different things I introduced, but then also for all the characters like John, in brackets Hickman, writer of Ultimate Invasion and Ultimate Spider-Man, un unbracketed, and Peach in brackets Momoko, the writer and artist for Ultimate X-Men. Peach Momoko, Peach. Momoko is the Japanese word for peach, Japanese word for peach, for the English word peach, so it's kind of a redundant saying there. And Brian in brackets Hill, writer of the Ultimate Black Panther, and Chris in brackets Condon, writer of Ultimate Wolverine, unbracketed, have spent so much time deepening and creating. It was very daunting, unquote. Quote, it's fun figuring out an interesting way of taking characters like the Maker and Spider-Man and X-Men and Black Panther and doing interesting new things with them that honor what came before. One of the great things about pop music is that you get to mine the past and take the thing that you like and do your spin on them. I love a challenge. That's the point of being a creator, unquote. And rather than playing fast and loose with the universe's canon, Camp revealed that he kept himself aware of his responsibility to his fellow Ultimate writers by focusing on one central question. Quote, how could I take those ideas and themes and continue them forward just a little bit? Unquote. Quote, I wanted whatever came after to feel organic with what came before, in brackets here, to make sure, unbracketed, everybody gets to end their story in whatever way they want, and whichever way is best for them. And I think that's what's going to make those stand the test of time, unquote. Quote, it's a little bit different when you're dealing with characters with 60 years of continuity or more. That's a bigger task. But there's another thing with where those characters are pretty malleable um, because they're fairly new. This Spider-Man has only really been written by John. Um, the X-Men has only this X-Men has only been really written by Peach, and so you really have to work to get it right as best you can. Putting one final stamp on the matter, Camp ultimately informed his host, quote, "This is the end for the Ultimate Universe. And so you're going to see a bunch of surprising endings and will hopefully feel that will hopefully feel natural. But we are not bound by what comes after," unquote. Quote, "We are bound by what is most appropriate and what's most true to these characters in the story that we're telling. So I hope it's going to be really satisfying for people, and it'll be really surprising for people. That's what we're going for," unquote. As of publication, the first issue of Ultimate Endgame is now on sale, having hit shelves on the literal last day of 2025. Oh boy. Anyways, wow. So December 31st. Meanwhile, the second part of Camp's Ultimate Universe Curtain Call is on track to release on February 4th. All right, so there we go with that one. And before I do get to the next story here, I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back, but I'll once again put some music on, entertain you guys while I'm gone. All right, so hopefully my note has been playing havoc with me tonight. So hopefully I got enough of it taken care of to where I won't. Man. Anyways, all right, I gotta go one more time, folks. All right, I'll put some music. All right, so hopefully now we got enough of that out now. So, anyways, all right, so let's move on to the next story here. I think what time it is, like just after 20. Right. All right, so DC dominates 2025 comic book sales. Marvel makes only leaderboard appearance thanks to Deadpool Batman. Kind of the combination co publishing deal they did. Yeah. Article by Spencer Cooley, once again published back on Friday, January 2nd. So here we go. While the year in the books and the comic book industry's final numbers tallied. With the year in the books and the comic book industry's final numbers tallied, 2025 can officially be called in DC's favor, as not only did their various Batman and Absolute related efforts lead them to completely dominate the year's sales charts, but were partly responsible for Marvel Comics' best-selling book of the year in Deadpool Batman. This recap of last year's comic book sales was provided to the public courtesy of Bleeding Cool's Rich Johnson as, quote, based on actual sales data, unquote, regarding, quote, in-store bracket sales, rather than orders from publishers, unquote, as reported to Comic Hub by, quote, 120 to 150 comic book stores, unquote. In parentheses here, as an aside, if you're a frequent customer of a brick and mortar store, you should check out Johnson's full list of sources. There's a good chance your store is on there. Both of my local ones were pretty neat, unparentheses. So actually, Johnson sounds like Johnson went to the actual comic book shop, and got the numbers there. Per his report, which covered the top 9 best-selling comics, ostensibly because a clean 3x3 grid is more visually pleasing to present on social media without a single cover throwing off its balance. The top spot on the 2025 sales charts went to the aforementioned Marvel produced entry of the Big Two's recent crossover, Deadpool Batman, Volume 1, which saw its first print run completely selling out across all stores. From there, DC takes the next 2 spots, courtesy of the first issue of Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez's Batman Volume 3 relaunch and the respective Batman Deadpool Volume 1 number 1, the first selling at a rate of 90% and the latter 75%. Coming in at number 4 is Image's Invincible Universe Battle Beast Volume 1, Number 1, at a sales ratio of 65.6%. While its placement so high up seems surprising on its face, it makes much more sense once one remembers that the issue was the first of many comics last year to lock a number of its variant covers behind a predatory blind bag scheme. In fifth is DC KO Volume 1, Number 1, 50 so just over 50%. Its podium finish, resulting from a combination of the issue being the first of a big event and featuring with a blind bag release. For those of you who don't know what blind bag means, basically I think what that means is that when you get if you let's say order a comic online or something like that, I think the way they package it in a blind bag to where you can't tell like what cover you got. So if you're trying to, let's say, get a certain variant cover, you had to buy a whole bunch to try to get the one cover you want. I think that's what the scheme is there. That's why they say it's not predatory. That's why the Spencer pointed out is a predatory. It's a way of getting you to buy more of the books. Big event and featuring, okay. With Batman Volume 2, number 158, 49.0, just below 50%. The first issue of the Hush 2 story arc, and Absolute Batman Volume 1, number 15, 47.6%. Its pages featuring the first full appearance of the Absolute Joker following in order. So obviously, a lot of Batman titles, which just goes to show you that Batman is still, even to this day, a very popular character. Continuing on with the and in keeping on the dark side influence train, the last two spots of the top 9 go to Absolute Wally West's first run in Absolute Flash, Volume 1, Number 1, 47.1%, and the Dark Brick Bleep House's child punning yacht set showdown between Black Mask and Absolute Batman Volume 1, Number 5, 44.6%. Aside from TC's total victory, what is most surprising about these numbers is the fact that none of the books in Marvel's widely praised Ultimate Universe reboot took any of the top spots, not even Ultimate Spider-Man or Ultimate Endgame, whose first issue released on the last day of the year and featured a blind bag release. Taken alongside Superman's box office beating those of Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four, First Steps, and it's clear that 2025 was the year of DC. Now, the big question becomes whether or not Marvel, or Image realistically, will be able to step up to the plate and offer any challenge to DC's now 2-year reign in 2026. Alrighty then, so there we go with that one. Alrighty then, so we're at the 30-minute mark now. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and move on to the wrestling wrap up now because, like I said, we do we have some stuff to go over from. We have, of course, stuff to go over from Friday Night SmackDown, AEW Collision Saturday night, and then Sunday's Wrestle Kingdom event, which we'll probably be talking about quite a bit. Some news coming out of that. And then, of course, we'll look ahead to tonight's Monday Night Raw as well, as WWE is continuing to build towards Royal Rumble at the end of the 31st. Of course, TNA has its next big pay-per-view week from this Saturday on the 17th, Genesis, with, of course, its premiere on AMC next Friday, which we'll talk more about at maybe later on this week or even. But anyways, with all that being said, let me go ahead and going to look back to Friday night SmackDown. So from this past Friday night SmackDown, which came from the KeyBank Center in Buffalo, New York, with Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary. The opening match of the evening, of course, saw an 8-woman tag match in which former Women's World Tag Team Champions Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair teamed with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky to defeat current WWE Women's Champions, the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, as well as Nia Jax and Lash Legend, as the feud over the women's tag team titles is heating up as they're trying to build up more of the women's mid-card. And then in the second match of the evening, saw the return to the WWE of the wrestler formerly known as Zack Ryder. Everybody knows him now by his real name, Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona making his return to WWE. It's been confirmed that he has finally re-signed with the WWE. Defeated Kit Wilson of Pretty Deadly in just over 4 minutes. In a match for the WWE United States title, Carmelo Hayes retained over Johnny Gargano in another open challenge, I believe. And it was also announced over the weekend that from the looks of it, looks like Johnny Gargano's tag partner, Tommaso Ciampa, his contract, he'll be finishing out his contract with the WWE. He's not planning on renewing. So sometime this year he'll be back on the independent scene. As there's been some talk that he's felt frustrated at not being, even though DIY has been used quite a bit throughout 2025, Tommaso Ciampa has, of course, has just felt that his time is with the WWE. Maybe there's some talk he might end up going to AEW. As there are on both sides, both in AEW and WWE, there are contracts that are coming up and all that. So I guess we'll just wait and see how things pan out. But anyways, with that, then in a match for the WWE Women's title match, which was a bit panned a little bit because it was kind of like, well, what was the whole purpose of it? As Julia defeated Chelsea Green to become for the second time, become the new WWE Women's Championship. Now, this is a heel matchup here. With both Kiana James and Alba Fire also getting involved, for the respective wrestlers, but Julia coming in and winning the U.S. title back. Some people just are kind of scratching their head, wondering, well, why did Julia lose it in the first place? What was the whole point of her losing it? Now this is part of the whole problem with the undercard and how it's getting booked in the WWE, particularly the women's undercard. It's really something that a lot of fans have not been. And speaking of the women's undercard a bit, so apparently now, there's the injury bug is hitting the WWE women's division, as Michin was recently injured during their holiday tour in a match against Jade Cargill, and now it's also being reported that B-Fab has also been hit with an injury. Now, some people are still very critical of Jade Cargill's in-ring work, as they feel she's still not up to par, and yet she's getting pushed in a way that meant some people feel she shouldn't. She's got to look, being like, I think 6 feet tall and very athletically gifted and built. That's why they're pushing Jade Cargill. But now with both Michin and B-Fab injured, the women's division is really getting thinned out. But there have been some call-ups, and it's believed that Jordan Grace will maybe coming up soon, the SmackDown brand. One of the other things that happened on this past Friday SmackDown, of course, Trick Williams made his SmackDown debut as a quote-unquote free agent, kind of confronting Sami Zayn in one of those kind of moments of trying to cut the line, as it were, and Sami Zayn kind of reminding him, that he needs to be humbled, in a promo battle. And the main event for SmackDown this past Friday was an ambulance match in which you had to put your opponent in an ambulance, in which Damian Priest was able to beat Aleister Black in a match that many fans are hoping will end this feud, as this feud didn't seem to go anywhere. I think most fans are looking for both men to move on to other opponents. So that's all that happened on this past Friday's SmackDown, and we will look ahead in a bit here to tonight's Raw. But of course, before we do get to that, I'm going to go back to Saturday night and look at AEW's Collision. As this past Saturday night's Collision was held at the Esports Stadium Arlington in Arlington, Texas, with Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone on commentary, and Jon Moxley joining them for I believe the main event. The opening match saw El Clone defeat Angelico in just under 3.5 minutes. And when El Clone started to try to beat down both Angelico and Angelico's SAP partner Serpentico, Commander came out to help SAP and chase El Clone to the back, which would play a bit of a role in a later match later in the night. Then The next match was a women's tag match in which saw the return of Luther from injury. He was in the corner of the timeless love bonds of Mina Shirakawa and four-time AEW Women's World Champion Toni Storm as they took on Hyen and Maya World, in which they won the match. And after the match, of course, shook hands with the losing team in a good show of sportsmanship. We would see Toni Storm again later in the evening. Then you had the mega problems of Marina Shafir and Megan Bain, the Megasaurus Megan Bain and the problem Mina Shafir, defeat the team of Rationale and London Dior in a minute 27. Then in an AEW TNT Eliminator match, in this case, it's more like a number one contender match to see who basically gets the next shot at Mark Briscoe, and that title shot, I believe, will be coming up maybe on this Wednesday's Dynamite. Hechicero, with some help from El Clone, defeated Commander as he would earn a shot at Mark Briscoe's TNT title coming up on this Wednesday's Dynamite. Then in tag team action, Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight, the team known as Jet Speed, defeated the team of Big Bill and Brian Keith, the team formerly known as the Learning Tree, in just over 12 minutes. Shelton Benjamin, who has an upcoming shot at the Continental title against John Moxley, coming up on this Wednesday's Dynamite, defeated Dante Martin, as MVP was in the corner of Shelton Benjamin for the Hurt Syndicate. Christopher Daniels was in Dante Martin's. At one point, even MVP was saying, "Hey, look, enough. Let's stop this," because he didn't want Shelton Benjamin beating up on Dante Martin, but Dante continued to be game and would eventually got super kicked for his trouble. And in the main event, saw Darby Allin defeat Wheeler Yuta, who of course had Marina Shafir, and saw a lot of interference in the match. Daniel Garcia interfere in the match, going after Darby. Saw Marina Shafir, and Marina Shafir was eventually kicked out by the referee Stephon Smith, and she was not happy per se about it. But it only saw for Toni Storm to come out and confront Marina Shafir on this. And of course, we have a lot of stuff, and we'll talk more about it on Wednesday, of course, as AEW's Dynamite. We already have a couple matches set up for that, as John Moxley will be defending the Continental title against Shelton Benjamin, and then you have the TNT title up for grabs as Mark Briscoe will be defending that title against Hechicero. So now we're going to look ahead. We're going to go to Sunday here. As now we got as there are some AEW talent also involved in this matchup, in this card. As also yesterday saw New Japan Pro Wrestling have their big event of the year, Wrestle Kingdom, the 20th Wrestle Kingdom, coming from the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan. On the pre-show, saw in a tag team match, Katsuya Mirashima and Matsutora Yatsuda defeated the team of Shoma Kato and Tatsuya Matsumoto. Also on the pre-show, El Fantasmo defended the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television title against Chris Brooks in just under 11 minutes. In a match for the never openweight six-man tag team title match in a Rambo match, the Mighty Don't Kneel combination of Hartley Jackson, Ryohei Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. defeated former champs Master Wato, Toru Yano, and Yo, along with the team of Oleg Bolton and Bishoman of Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi. The Bullet Club War Dogs, a team of Clark Kanas and the Knockout Brothers of Oscar and Yuto Issei. The House of Torture trio of Yoshinobu Kanamura, Ren Narita, and Sanada. Kaisei Takechi teaming with Yuya Yorimura and Shota Umino. And the team of Ryosuke Taguchi, Tiger Mask, and Togi Makabe, along and Team 150 of Satoshi Kojima, the New Japan Strong Openweight Champion Tomohiro Ishii, and Taichi. And in a unification match for the IWGP Women's and New Japan Strong Women's title, Shiori defeated Saya Kamatani. Saya Kamatani, who was going into the event as a double champion. She was both the New Japan Strong Women's title holder and the Stardom's World of Stardom Championship. This match originally it was not planned. I guess there's something that was done kind of on the fly for this unification match, as it's believed that during a recent defense of the World of Stardom, title at Dream Kingdom, Saya Kamatani, as she was defending the title against Saori Ano, she may have suffered concussion during that match, and now it looks like Saya Kamatani will be taking some time off for the foreseeable future, or at least for the next month. She is scheduled to be back in February, but it looks like she'll be taking some time off to get what some have called some much needed rest. And then in a 10-man tag team, the United Empire, with of course Andrade El Idolo making his first in-ring appearance since being allowed to come back and start to work again after getting the non-compete clause fiasco settling. Teaming with other United Empire members of Great-O-Khan, Henare, Jake Lee, and Callum Newman to defeat the Bullet Club War Dogs fivesome of David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Drilla Maloney, Hiromu Takahashi, and Shingo Takagi. In a four-way match to determine the number one contendership for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, determine the next person to challenge Joki of House of Torture team for the IWGP Junior. El Desperado outlasted the Mighty Don't Kneel's Kosei Fujita, House of Torture Show, and Taiji Ishimura to become the number one contender In a match for the never openweight title match, newcomer Aaron Wolf defeated House of Torture's Evil. And in another unification match, in a match for the IWGP World Heavyweight and IWG Global Heavyweight, Yota Tsuji defeated Konosuke Takeshita to become the new IWGP World Heavyweight title, along with the Global. And in the main event, in the retirement match for Hiroshi Tanahashi, he fell to the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada. So now, with that being said, with all that being done, now we're looking to look ahead at to tonight's Monday Night Raw here, as WWE will have its Monday Night Raw event tonight from, let's see now, as soon as, from the Barclays Center in New York City, with Corey Graves and Michael Cole on commentary. The Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane will be defending the WWE Women's Tag Team titles, the World Women's Tag Team. The WWE Women's Tag Team titles. Asuka and Kairi Sane will be defending the titles against Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. Liv Morgan is set to take on Lyra Valkyria in a one-on-one match. In a match for the WWE World Heavyweight title, CM Punk will be defending the World Heavyweight title against Braun Breaker, and set for the main event of the evening will be for the Women's Intercontinental title. Maxine Dupree will be defending the Women's Intercontinental title against Becky Lynch. So with that being said, that's all I got for the wrestling wrap-up. So tomorrow, of course, with that, I will, of course, give the results for tonight's Raw, along with looking ahead to tomorrow night's NXT. That will happen tomorrow, of course. All right. So with that being said, today is, of course, Monday. Today is Monday. December 5th, 2026. So let's take a look back at this day in neat history. So let's see, 2000, 2021, and 2006. All right. So first off, I'm going to head back 70 years ago. As on this date, 70 years ago today, back in 1956, 70 years ago today, heavyweight wrestling, which was one of the first wrestling programs, debuted on this date back in 1956. So one of the heavyweight wrestling. Now, heavyweight wrestling was a wrestling program done in the Washington D.C. area for the NWA Capital Wrestling Corporation. So one of the very first programs produced by what was then NWA Capital Wrestling, basically the predecessor to the WWF, or what would you know today as WE, was heavyweight wrestling, which debuted locally on Washington D.C. station WTTG on January 5th, 1956, as Wrestling at Capitol Arena, and later entered syndication when it began airing on New York City WABD TV, now WNYW, on June 21st. The show featured low card and high card status wrestlers. The ring announcers would announce the matches for next week. Most of the events were held at Washington's Capitol Arena. Ray Morgan did the commentary for the show. The ring announcers were friendly Bob Freed and smiling Sam Morgan. Usually the main events featured WWF champion Bruno Sammartino retaining the title. Show ended on this date 60 years ago, or 70 years ago today, heavyweight wrestling premiered on local Washington television on this date 70 years ago, back in 1956. Now moving on to the year 2000, 26 years ago today, on this date in the year 2000, 26 years ago today, the 25th issue of Volume 3 of Avengers from Marvel went on sale on newsstands on this date back in the year 2000. So for $2.99, with 48 pages, Tom Brevoort doing the editing back in those days. Story was The Ninth Day, written by Kurt Busiek, penciled by the late great George Perez, inked by Al Fay. Richard Starkings did the lettering, and Tom Smith did the coloring. So on this date, 26 years ago today, the 25th issue of Volume 3 of Marvel on sale day. Anyways, getting ready to move on now. Moving ahead to the year 2006. So 20 years ago today, on this date, 20 years ago today, the following anime premiered on Japanese television: TNK's Rakugo Tenryo Oyue and Toei Animation's Kinnikuman to Say Ultimate Muscle 2. Both premiered on Japanese television on this date back in 2006, 20 years ago today. And finally, the year 15 years ago today, in 2011, on this date in the year 2011, 15 years ago today. Not 5 years ago today. Sorry about that. 5 years ago today, in the year 2021, DreamWorks Animation's Gabby's Dollhouse premiered on Netflix on this date in 2021. So 5 years ago today, DreamWorks Animation's Gabby's Dollhouse premiered on Netflix on this date in the year 2021. So with that, I thank everybody for being here today. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow. Also, I'll be joined by Sabrina from Devil Flyer Momentum. This Sunday, she'll be joining me as we will be taking another look at comics that went on sale in July of 1940 from Lev Gleason, I believe. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody tomorrow. Bye.